you have a hard exit at 12:30. So,
Yeah.
welcome everybody. It looks like it's about a few minutes after. Great to see everybody on the call today. Let me get my screen shared here. Kick us off. Okay. So welcome to the Readiness and Adoption Committee. It's great to see everybody on the call today. My name is Rich Oppenheim. I co-lead the committee with Sahar Noor from the city of Detroit, and Sahar is going to be joining us, I think, at the second half of the session today. Um, and we are joined also by Albert Gahami from city of San Jose, who is so helpful to us and supporting our committee and helping us get connected and do all the things we need to work on all of our exciting projects. So thanks to Albert and the City of San Jose team for sure. Um, so today's meeting, we're going to step a little bit away from our normal project check-ins. And we have some agenda items here that I wanted to walk through with you. The first thing we're going to do is kick off with a discussion from Alice Marshall about AI training and some ideas she's had. She's implemented AI training at her agency, which is the city of North Las Vegas, and has some ideas around an approach. She was one of our panelists in the at the summit for the expanding AI training and for public sector success. And I wanted to give some space to all those panelists because I thought they all had such great ideas. So she's had some thought around sort of an approach she's wanting to pursue and recommend in terms of AI training. So we'll spend some time with that. And then it's also our committees, our working groups within the committee have been so busy this year. And one of the things we really wanted to do is actually promote the products that the groups are working on and to get this committee, the larger committee, a really solid understanding of the outputs that the working groups are working on. So we're going to spend some time focusing on one of the playbooks today from the upskilling playbook, and Marty Wolford's going to do a walkthrough of that resource, and hopefully the group will have some good feedback for her. Also, as many of you know, if you've been coming to meetings, we've been partnering with Maddie and Quinn from the Center for Democracy and Technology, and they have just completed their briefing paper on AI for elected officials. So they're going to do a walkthrough of that final
Hi.
product for us. So we're really looking forward to really getting
So,
some insight on some of those products that are being developed by our committees or our working groups. If we have time at the end, we'll do some project updates and
there's like,
talk about some of our other issues, our AI policy and adoption, and our ongoing action items. So, but I wanted to switch it up a little bit today and give some time to some other people and do some deep dives in some specific areas. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alice, who unfortunately has to leave early today. She has a prior commitment at 12:30, so I'm going to give her the floor first to talk about her AI training presentation.
thank you so much, Rich. And thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and chat with you all about the work that we're doing here at CNLV City North Las Vegas with training. Can you see my slides, Rich?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I just really appreciated the summit so much, and I was so energized by the panel that Rich led us on. He moderated it, and just the discussions that we were having. And I think both Rich and I, we kind of left there and we had a conversation about AI training is really the hot thing right now. Like everybody, every panel at the conference was like people were talking about AI training, no matter how technical it was, like about procurement processes or something like that. It was always like ending up, the end point was always AI training. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the ideas that I had kind of leaving the summit, and then also, and like none of this is really like new to, I think, this group. I'm humbly sharing some of these reflections, but like a lot of you are going to be like, yes, we're already doing that. You know, and I will also say that I've looked at the materials that people have created for like fire and things like that, and some of our materials that we have in different like YouTube playlists and things like that. But unfortunately, I think it's our like super rigorous security protocols that we have to access external SharePoints. So I've been working with IT to try to get to the education folder. I really wanted to be able to review the stuff. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short today so that we can actually get to the playbooks presentation as well, because I do have to leave right at 12:30. But so just to kind of go through some thoughts that I had, and I wrote a blog about my reflection after the panel, but it's this idea of like, yes, there's a very high demand for AI training. AI training is on everyone's mind, like Rich said in his reflections afterwards. One of the reflections that I had was, I really think that there's space for HR to be continuously involved in these discussions, right? So together with IT. And the reason for that is because HR is really where the expertise in change management, learning and development, the people side of transformation resides. So I'm pitching to everybody that I think HR is an important partner in this work. And the other thing that was such a clear reflection at the end of the summit was the need for training as it pertains to every single agency, right? So we're talking about really this is this global universal need, which obviously our committee has been working on for a long time. So my main reflection, and this is really an ongoing conversation that I've been having with Layla Doty from San Jose, is this idea of having the tiered approach to training, right? So we started our AI pilots. We've done about 5 of them. I think it was about a year ago. And so we talked to Layla and kind of have been modeling our work after the San Jose's work. But one of my clear reflections after the summit was like, we've been doing this baseline level training, and that's really not enough, right? Because people, as soon as you start to do the baseline training, people want more, right? They want more technical things, they want department specific, and that's something that San Jose is doing as well. So I really think of it as 4 tiers of training. And I think that this is really a helpful way to frame it. And I know we're already doing so much in terms of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So this is just how I think of it. We're already doing a lot of this, right? In this committee specifically. But the tier 1, and this is kind of how I'm framing it in terms of our AI working group and how we're going to kind of push our trainings like as we move forward, is just framing it in terms of tiers, right? So tier 1 is the baseline level learning, and this is building AI literacy. And this is what we've been doing, right? So this is the level that we've been at CNLV for our 5 pilots. Tier 2 is more tool specific. So we are an M365 shop right now. We're on Copilot chat. We don't have the upgraded licenses. We've turned off web. So we're kind of limited, but doing what we can with what we've got. And then also looking at departments specifically, like we've been doing in this committee, right? So we have the PD stuff, we've got the fire stuff. So our next thing is going to be probably working with IT and doing a pilot tier 2 training with IT. And one of my colleagues just in Sweden just wrote a newsletter yesterday about prompt school. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Tier 2 material is like prompt school. Like, so you have all these ideas for prompts and you're just kind of testing them out in like a workshop/lab format. So I'm really excited to try out that kind of idea of like kind of deep diving into Copilot and seeing like more specifically how it can be used for that department. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then obviously tier 3 is for the power users. So that's where you look at like the certifications and things like that. Like San Jose has their partnership with San Jose State University, which is their 12-week program, where I think they've done, I believe, 80 people through that certification program. And that's really impressive. And so I think right now we're going to focus on tier 2, but I think in the long term, as you do these trainings, people emerge who are power users. And so how do we invest in those people, maybe get them upgraded licenses, And this is also a budgetary thing, obviously, like because we don't have the upgraded licenses for Copilot right now. We also have Gemini, by the way, at the moment, but we just switched from Google to M365. And then tier 4 that I really got excited about at the summit was AI for all, right? That's for residents, resident-facing stuff. And on the last call last week, I saw that the community engagement group had a committee had created a slide deck as well that you could actually use for content. And then I also noticed that San Jose has actually published the AI for all platform that they're using. And Layla gave me the contact of the person at the library there who's running that program. So that's something maybe not right now, but I really am hopeful that we can get a pilot started at CNLV for the tier 4 training, resident facing. And I'm currently going through Anthropic's AI fluency course, and I think it's so good. It's so good. I just love it. I love it so far. And that was also something I picked up at the summit from Anthropic, but also it's on AI for All, is AI fluency with Anthropic is one of the 3 digital courses that they have on that platform. So this is something, I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Like we already have all these amazing resources that are being used. So this is kind of just how I'm visualizing it and like thinking of the approach as I like move forward with our training program. And so I wanted to just chat with you all today about tier 2, which again, a lot of our groups, the upskilling working group has been doing a lot of stuff specifically to departments, the department specific. And I know we have the PD one and the fire one, but kind of where I'm at with how I'm thinking of approaching that, at least we have 3 departments that want to pilot it out for us. So we've got IT, HR, and community services and engagement that are like just in passing conversations, like, yes, let's do it. And then we also have all the 100+ people we've already trained with our baseline level training. So another approach is, do you just up-tier people, upskill the people who have already gone through? That's a secondary approach. I'm going with department specific first. I think department is fun because you can go with like an analysis basically of like, where are the biggest gains in the department's workflow via AI, right? And we're not even getting into like agentic stuff yet, because again, we don't have the licenses for it, but kind of a pre-training meeting to discuss like, where are we at? Who's using the stuff? How are they using it? And then kind of just looking into sharing departmental best practices. And so this is like what I'm actively working on right now, like with our working group, is how to develop a good workshop for IT, for example. And I'm looking for presentation materials on Copilot chat, web search disabled. So if any of you have that, that would be welcome. And then, like I said, I really love this idea of the prompt school / prompting workshop. Like we all just kind of sit together and prompt together and figure out like share best practices, like what prompts work best, and kind of just spend a couple hours having fun, like in a lab kind of setup where we just, and kind of make it small to start. Because we talked about like, should we do it at the department scale first, or should we do a smaller group? I'm kind of leaning towards like, we'll do smaller groups and like make it like a little best practice like hub. And then we can spread those best practices to the department, if you will. This is kind of where I'm at. So these are all just my ideas right now after the summit. And I just wanted to take a minute here and discuss with you all, because you're all so, like this group specifically, just the amount of stuff coming out of this group is so impressive. And I think we're all doing such cool stuff. So again, I don't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to open the floor if anybody had any thoughts or ideas or, you know, inspiration, or, you know, this is kind of where I'm at and what I'm thinking about after the summit.
Looks like Andrew had a question in the chat. Have you observed any resistance from staff, supervisors, et cetera, on this, and how might you overcome it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what the feedback that we've gotten so far from our baseline level trainings was overwhelmingly positive. Like the people who came really liked it. They want more. That's the standard response is like, give us more, make it more specific to our departments, make it very practical. So that's why I'm saying more like a lab approach for tier 2 is kind of where I'm going, because that's also the feedback we've gotten. Um, the resistance, it's like in the beginning when we first started doing it, it was like, is AI going to take our jobs? Like that was like, and we still have those conversations, right? But like I'm a pragmatist more than anything, and I think the best way for you to approach new technology is to upskill yourself as soon as possible, right? That is the most resilient approach. And another thing that I want to say apropos resistance is I also teach emotional intelligence and resilience. And I'm kind of thinking about how do I package these all together? Because emotional intelligence is the defining feature of being human that is superior to a machine, right? So EQ is relevant here, as is resilience. And resilience is a durable skill that will go with you no matter what career you have. So I think actually, I'm kind of thinking about that as well. Like a parallel to this is like, yes, technical skills, but also durable skills like EQ and resiliency, I think also help combat this kind of fear. It's really fear. Like it's this kind of panicky type of that we sometimes get these comments about like is AI going to get better than us and take over the world like all the movies? And we're like, I maybe, but it's going to be a while because honestly, we're still very much in artificial narrow intelligence where like, let's be honest, it can do certain things pretty well, but not reliably, like always 100% of the time. So like human oversight is absolutely crucial. So that, but that's also my 2 cents of it and where I'm at with the research and everything. So I think other
I,
people have questions as well.
yeah, I love that idea, Alice, in terms of because one of the things that I took away was this was a people transformation, not just an IT transformation. And I think linking it to concepts like emotional intelligence and how people respond to change is going to be really important. So, Sage, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, no, I'm just really excited to be here in this this having this conversation with everybody. And Alice, I would just jump on what you were saying and agreeing with you too, Richard, about like the thing that's going to stand out, I think, among people using AI and like developers and things like that. Like if the cost of the access to this technology is kind of like equal among all people eventually. I think that's going to happen as we get good at using these tools. I think the thing that's going to stand out the most is what you're talking about, and that's like the emotional intelligence and just who we are as people, and just really like we're going to want to do business with those that we, well, I guess for lack of a better words, know, like, and trust. And I think leaning into those soft skills, those human skills, are going to be so vital going forward, and just building solid relationships and following through on your word, and things like that are just something that I don't think you'll ever be able to build into these models. But you can build them in the sense that the humans are the ones that are controlling them, and I mean, hopefully, right? And they're working with a team of people that are, have like these certain core values that match up with the other, entities that are paying for those solutions. So anyway, these are like I'm in kind of two different worlds. I'm a developer myself, or whatever, trying to be a developer, and working with all these people that are way smarter than me that actually know how to code and everything and build this amazing solutions. But one of the things that we're talking about is the thing that's going to make us stand out is the human connections, the ability to really be human. And yeah, we're using these amazing tools to do all this cool stuff, but the thing that really separates people going forward is going to be just that, like who you are as a human and expressing that as much as possible. So anyway, I'm glad to hear it. We're people talking about it right now.
Yeah, thank you for that reflection. Yeah, that's it's nice to hear that that is exciting for people because that is something I've been thinking a lot about is like how do we weave that in? And I don't have an answer to that, but I think it's an interesting perspective to have both, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of overlap between the conversation you're having around this and stuff like the animals started off with change management and workforce planning. I think there's a lot of interconnectedness around that, and also some of the stuff that Lon and Rick are building in their playbooks and upskilling. So, in fact, I see Rick, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I actually did some private chatting to Alice, so hopefully she'll see those before the call expires. But and just wanted to raise a couple of the points I said there. One is that in the working group, especially her tier 3 point of people going further, that's really where I'd like to see us. I mean, we're already looking at certification as a key piece, and that's going to be that next level at one point, and I'm looking at even beyond that for people. There's everybody has their own journey, and you want to get the most out of people who really want to dig in. And then the other point is just when you said, oh, we haven't gotten our agentic AI licenses. Stephen Hill has done in our working group has done this deep analysis of the agentic frameworks that are out there and how to be economically or fiscally responsible with those decisions. So if you're not the person getting these licenses, you should put the people who are getting these licenses in touch with him, because there are some real efficiencies that people are overlooking when they're just checking out some vendors. So
Yeah, we would love to. So I just I just saw I was looking at your chat. Yeah, so I just joined the upskilling working group. So hopefully we can continue that conversation. Like I said, we're not quite there yet. I think we're going to have to go through tier 2 a little bit before we kind of even identify who those sort of experts, who has the interest basically, and then start digging into things like cost. So we're a little bit out from that, but absolutely, we're 100% interested in listening and on the conversations, like where are people at with that, and like in terms of the cost benefit analysis. So thank you, Rick. That's great. That's awesome.
All right. And Charles, I see your hand raised also.
Good afternoon, everyone. Charles Lightfoot, Oakland Fire. Hey, Alice, regarding your co-pilot training request, what we did in Oakland, we're currently in the middle of a pilot program for co-pilot. We do have web access, but we scheduled with one of Microsoft's solutions engineers to go through a training with the members of the pilot. And then, of course, we did that on Teams and recorded it so people can go back through that detailed training from Microsoft themselves. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Because I've also been looking at leveraging the Microsoft trainings that are there. And honestly, like the stuff that they have online has been kind of underwhelming so far, simply because a lot of it is really, really long, like 8 hours long training. And secondly, you oftentimes need to have the upgraded licenses to do those trainings. Like immediately you get kind of swept into like, and here's how you use it in all these different platforms. And it's like, but we can't do that because we don't have that, or at least it's not turned on right now. So that's good to know that you were able to schedule that, because that's also a cost-effective way of doing it. So thank you for that. That's helpful.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. What was the reason for disabling web search in Copilot chat?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I run the AI working group together with Ron Williams, who's our IT security manager. He's basically our CISO de facto right now, and we wrote the AI policy together. He is very security minded. And we actually just had a conversation yesterday about increasing the functionality of Copilot chat. So I think that that's something that we can negotiate upon. But I mentioned on the panel that Nevada experienced a very severe hack less than 2 months ago, which shut down the DMV for almost 2 weeks. And a bunch of other agencies, every agency was affected. And so we're very risk averse. Like Las Vegas is like scam central for like banks and everything. So I think just in terms of our geographic location, we're very like risk averse just because of the plethora of hack attempts that we experience just on an ongoing basis. So I think part of it is geographical. And then I think part of it is we just are very security minded here at CNLV for good reason. So I think that's that I don't love it. We negotiate all the time about security, me and Ron, because I'm obviously L&D and like forward, trying to push everything forward. And we have legal and security on our working group. And it's this balance of like pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. And that's kind of our conversation at all times, is like, we're trying to push forward and they're kind of like, like, so I think it will eventually maybe get turned on, but it was security. That's why. Yeah.
Great. And Andrew asked, have you considered creating an internal agency peer community to help them learn and engage together with AI?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that that's something that we can explore during the tier 2 trainings, is kind of how we should do peer-to-peer, because that's something that I envisioned being a part of the tier 2, right? Is very much like this workshop/lab model where we do peer-to-peer built into the structure of the actual workshop itself. So like super hands-on, not theoretical, like very like, what are you doing? Like almost like back in college days. Do you know what I mean? Like very like, let's all hang out together. This is not a big deal. So I think building peer-to-peer in is a good idea, but that's actually a good idea in terms of how do we facilitate that more on an ongoing basis, in terms of once people finish the tier 2 trainings, how do we kind of keep that up? And I don't know, that's a really good idea. I don't have an answer for you, but I know that that is a best practice for once you reach your like 5 hours of, the research shows it's like 5 hours is the best amount of time for training, and peer-to-peer is an important component of that. So I don't have an answer for you. It's a great question. To be continued. All these questions are excellent. So I think we just continue the discussion and figure it out as we go, right? But thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I unfortunately have to hop off now, but Rich, I'll look at the slides, and thank you all so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and just a heads up to everybody, Marty, Alice, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your thoughts. And one of the things that really stood out from me that you said was you just got started and went from there. And I think that's really important to see like where you've progressed, that you just started with that AI basic for all, and now you're sort of thinking about those subsequent steps. But the important thing was, I think, that you just got started with something to help your employees. So really great work, and thanks for coming and sharing your thoughts with us, and look forward to hearing more in the future.
Thank you. Sounds great.
Thanks so much. And just as a note to everybody, Alice did share the deck with me, and I will share that out with the follow-up meeting notes as well. So, okay, we are going to shift gears to, let me get back into my presentation here. We're going to shift gears to Marty is on the call today, and she's going to do this deeper dive into one of the upskilling group's playbook on getting started with AI training in your agency, which I hope will be a really nice follow-up to the conversation we've just had. So, Marty, I'm going to turn this over to you, and then we can follow up afterwards.
Great, thanks. So I feel like Albert hasn't given us a hey everyone. So I'm gonna do a hey everyone. It's nice to be here. I always enjoy that, Albert. So I'm Marty Wolford. I'm from Salt Lake City. I work within the information management services, the innovation team, and I am the AI lead for Salt Lake City. So I've been working with a few people who are on this call, Rick for sure, and a few others to develop some playbooks. I came to this work group, this upskilling group to hopefully just take and then implement, and learned they were talking about much more advanced uses of AI. And I was looking for some kind of basic, like we're just trying to get baseline training and ideas going. So then, because I was looking for that, I got assigned that. So this is that work. I had some great help with Simran, who wasn't able to assist us today. And then we also had a designer from this group who helped with that. So I just want to give shout out credit to them. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to start with this. You maybe saw it at the summit last month, but this is the roadmap, or the Candylands was kind of that game, that board game. If you've played that, it was the inspiration for this, to have a nice visual of the path you take getting your agency started with AI and with AI training. So when you look at this, when you scan the QR code in the bottom left, you're going to be taken to the playbook. And that's what I'm just going to introduce it to you. So this is really a foundational understanding. So we kind of had the whole range of different things that we just learned about when it comes to training. This is your foundational. And then the other two that will be shared later are those more advanced, like maybe tier 3, based on the example that we just heard. So it just opens it up with a nice intro. We have a lot of icons that match back to that Candyland idea, and then they correspond with sections here. So this is just telling you what most of us should know, the importance of training, of where to start, getting that nice foundational awareness, and then it leads you into some options of where to start. So a lot of places around the country, I know, for government, have started with a staff survey. In Salt Lake City, we started with a policy. But before you start training, it is important to know, what do your staff already know, and what tools are they using, and how are they using them? So this section lays that out. We've included some things that may seem unnecessary, but we really were going for the most basic, like I have no idea where to start. The summit's always so interesting because you meet people from different departments in cities and counties that you just think, oh, how interesting that you're the one that's learning about this instead of someone from IT or whatever. So if that's you, we've listed out different survey resources. If you don't even know like what tools your city has, here's some options. And then we try to include examples where we can. So we've pulled 2 survey examples. One is from the New Jersey Office of Innovation, so it goes over their survey and results, and then the state of Idaho. Those were just public facing, easy to find. So if you have anything that you think would be a great addition to this playbook, feel free to reach out to myself, to Rick. Lon is the other co-chair of this group. Then after that, it goes into a use policy, which of course is like the foundation of everything, in my opinion, but it's so important to have a use policy in place. And so we do a call out, of course, to the coalition's policy template, and then to the Responsible AI Institute, to their policy template, just so you can see what a template looks like. If you haven't looked at the coalition's policy template, one thing I just want to call out on that is it is a very, 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 very thorough policy. It has everything that you can possibly think of for the most part, I think. And what's so great about it is if there's a section that's not really pertinent to you, you just take it out, which is, I think it's a really nice, it does a nice job with that. And then we have some policy examples. Just a variety. So there's a couple cities, there's a library, a county, 2 states, and then San Jose, of course, just because they lead us out. So they have a great policy. So that's there. Then it goes into training. So lots of training resources are listed. Of course, if you have a learning management system at your agency, most likely there's lots and lots. When I've checked here in Salt Lake City, our system has 150 trainings, which is really overwhelming. And there's lots of quick 10-minute ones. And you could put those all together into a training, or you could look into what's listed here. So the coalition has developed a list of trainings, and this link will take you there. Some of these will repeat and be on that list, but that's a good place to find, especially if you're looking for those like tier 2 or 3 trainings. Those are listed. And then these are great resources if you haven't already, if you're not familiar. Apolitical free and self-paced. Innovate US has a free and self-paced, and then Coursera has a free and self-paced training, and then we share ones that you have to register and they're fee-based. So these will get into more detailed, more tier 2 or 3 training. And then if you just want to read an article, the National League of Cities has a great article, How to Train Municipal Staff. Let's here. Then we call out some ideas of what you want to look for in a training course. What works well and at a high level, like when you're first introduced to AI, getting into the weeds is probably not gonna bring everyone on board. So it's really, starting with some of that baseline and then moving from there. Something that I don't see in a lot of the guides, and I've read so many of them, is this section on financial factors in AI adoption. And I think this is a really important one to call out. It's not just licenses, right? Our fees can add up and show up in places that you're not necessarily expecting when you're trying to implement, especially if you're going agency-wide. So this gives you some ideas of things that you need to think about, gives you a few budget scenarios. So for like a pilot team of 10 to 25, a work group up to 75 staff, and then an organizational scale up to 300 plus staff, like what you're looking at. And of course, data is such an important part of any AI tool. We need to have good data to get good results. So this goes over some of those key principles and what to look for. And then gives you some good resources to follow up and learn more. So this section isn't that in depth, but there's so much out there that you can learn about it. And these 3 are really great. One's a YouTube video and the other 2 are articles. And then training return on investment, which is, for most of us, I think we get asked this a lot about what's our ROI? What's our ROI? And so this breaks it down into a few different areas. So of course you have this efficiency gains, right? Productivity. It's what we hear about. It's the big buzzword when it comes to AI, like saving time, productivity. But there's other things to consider. So staff initiated innovation and creative use. So what are staff coming up with? How are they using it? I think this is really interesting. And then the qualitative benefits. So enhanced employee morale, improved team collaboration, focus on citizen-centric services, and then future-proofing the workforce. So this is some other benchmarks and metrics that you may not have thought of that we're just introducing here so you can think about that. And then case studies. I think case studies, Simran added this one, which was a great idea that I hadn't even thought of, which provide just how other people did it and what they learned and what they're sharing. So we have the North Carolina Department of State Treasurer, the National League of Cities, and then the Australian government. Again, if you have a case study that you would like to be shared, please send that over. And then resources. I think this is all the top ones that I know about that are worth our time to learn, to read articles, to receive trainings. There's a lot of peer-to-peer work that's happening. If you don't know this, RITA, that's a Western region. So if you're on the East Coast or Central, you may have a different regional one, but since we're all on the West, included that. City AI Connect, and then just like all of these. So just to wrap up, it's really intended for that baseline. You're just getting started. If you need idea generation, thoughts, reach out to other people about it. That's the intent of the resource.
Great. Thank you so much, Marty. Your work has been really great on this. It's such a great resource for people and really thorough. The upskilling group has done a great job pulling, this playbook as well as the other ones together. I'm curious if people have reactions. One of our goals is to sort of soft launch it with this group and say, is there anything that we think is missing, or is there anything we think is important to stress? Or does this seem helpful, and get some feedback from the larger group in terms of its readiness. And then from there, we will plan on finalizing this and making this available as a resource on the coalition's resource pages. So I'll look really briefly at the chat. I see a love it from Jim Brown. Great. Sage says one thing interesting about ROI is that the tech is moving at a quadratic speed, but the ROI measurements are moving linearly. So might consider expanding ROI measurements so as not to miss out adopting the tech and growing with it. So
Interesting point.
Yeah, great point.
Any other feedback from people? I really appreciate this because one of the things we hear so much about these working groups working on the playbooks and talking about them and sharing links, but I think it's important to give ourselves some time and space in the meeting to actually go through the resource and show it, and actually do a walkthrough so everybody can see all the great work that you've been doing. So Marty, thank you so much for coming and presenting today. There will be links to this content in what I'm sending out in the post-meeting follow-up. So and I'll also put in there that we really invite your feedback beyond the meeting. It's really going to help us in terms of making the tool as useful as it can be. So appreciate Marty you taking the time today. And just a quick note before we move on, let me get my screen shared here. This is one of 3 playbooks. The other 2, the one we started today was getting started with AI training. Stephen Hill has done the other 2, the rolling out an education plan and guide to building custom GPTs and agents. And over the next few meetings, he's going to be doing the same thing that Marty did today and doing a deep dive into these other playbooks so that the whole team, the whole larger committee can get a sense of the content of all of these pieces. So looking forward to inviting him on December 17th to do, I think, rolling out the education plan, and then in January for the building custom GPTs and agents. So more to come. So appreciate your time and space for this right now. So last but not least, we are going to do a deep dive into the AI for Elected Officials briefing paper that Maddie and Quinn from Center for Democracy and Technology have been working on. And I think both of you on the line today? Do you want to?
We were going to be, but Maddie unfortunately has the flu, so you all just get me today.
Oh
But
no,
she's
sorry to hear
sad to miss out.
that.
Yeah. So hi, folks. For those of you who haven't met, I'm Quinn. I work at the Center for Democracy and Technology. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that focuses on democratic values and technology and do a lot of work around AI in particular. And my colleague Maddie and I work on our team that focuses on public sector uses of data and technology. So many of you, though, in this call know that we've been working on for several months now a resource for elected officials and senior leaders about the kind of actions they can take that don't require new laws, but are things they can do given their sort of vantage points within government to advance responsible practices. So we finally have the final designed version that will be going live tomorrow. And Rich has the PDF and the link to our website that will be live tomorrow that hopefully I think he'll include with the follow-up email. So y'all have your own copies of this, but I will screen share the actual PDF and sort of walk through, excuse me, when I'm on a different monitor, but okay. And I'll sort of walk through what's actually in here. The content is stuff that we shared in the Google document. So really you're just looking at the design version, but the content is just an updated version, what everyone has already seen. But as a quick reminder, we've decided to focus this on 5 categories, and those are the ones here. So very quickly, these are transparency, accuracy and reliability, governance and coordination, privacy and security, and then safety, rights, and legal compliance. And for each of these 5 categories, we then have checklist items that are really intended to function as sort of a menu of options that an elected official or senior leader like a mayor, county executive, governor, whomever could take if they wanted to do something related to one of these areas in their sort of AI governance journey. So for each of these, I'll kind of quickly go through some of the stuff in these categories. Obviously, it's too much to kind of go through all right now, but just to kind of give you a sense of what's in here and to give you a bit of a preview before tomorrow. So the other thing I'll point out, particularly for this group, is everywhere you see a hyperlink, what we actually did for each of these specific checklist recommendations is we hyperlink to, in most cases, a real example from a city or a state or some other locality of doing the thing we have recommended as a checklist item. There are only a few cases where we like point to a bigger study or something, but in a lot of cases, we're linking to something like the actual advisory body in an actual state that does the function we're talking about, for example. So as you get more time to explore this, if there are particular things of interest, I encourage you to look at the resources that we've linked to in here, because I think they help to kind of illustrate the points a bit further, but our aim was to keep this as a shorter resource to make it more digestible. So for transparency and stakeholder engagement, some of the things this focuses on are ways to communicate to the public about the tools a specific jurisdiction might be using, or ways to create different bodies or forums for the public to interact with the government. And again, these are supposed to be agency agnostic and sort of bigger picture government-wide actions that can be taken. Similarly, around accuracy and reliability, a lot of our recommendations, which were informed by a lot of the feedback we got from all of this is informed by feedback we got, but especially some like this category and some of the more technical ones, really focusing on the kinds of government-wide standards or resources you could think about creating that would be repurposed and reused across multiple agencies. So what are the kind of benchmarkings in procurement that someone like a governor could initiate as a process across government? For governance and coordination, this really focuses on sort of leadership positions and governing bodies and well as process. So things like appointing a chief AI officer or creating a similar role or function, having cross-government forums, and making sure you have centralized response protocols. So, also drawing on things that I know this coalition has worked on more broadly to kind of put this in the picture of the broader scope of actions this kind of official could take. And then for privacy and security, really focus on what are the kind of leadership integration you need to have in AI decision making and the ways you would need to update existing policies or protocols to account for the unique kind of security and privacy consideration that AI brings into the picture. And our safety rights and legal compliance recommendations are similar. The one I'll call out is we include a substantive recommendation here around making sure you have heightened risk management requirements for high-risk uses and give examples of what some of those look like. So I know that was a really quick rundown, but that's the kind of preview. It will be up on our website tomorrow, and I know Rich will share around the PDF. Happy to stop for any questions that folks may have. And to say thanks again for all the feedback. We did seriously edit this a lot based on the feedback folks gave in the early draft. So I'm hopeful that folks see their work and recommendations reflected in how this turned out.
Yeah, Quinn, thank you so much for walking us through this. This is going to be a great resource, and it's been great seeing your journey of collecting lots of feedback and coming to us occasionally with an update on where you're at. But this is going to be a really excellent resource to help people that are actually setting policies for agency to understand AI and all the different facets so they can make really informed decisions around AI that are going to impact all of us in many ways. So I think it's just a great resource. And are we also going to be able to link to this on our website, on the coalition website, if we get
We'd
the
love
link
for you
where
guys
it's
to.
posted?
If there's anything you need besides the PDF, let me know and I'll wrangle that. But yes, please
Okay.
feel free to.
Okay.
The
Albert,
other
maybe you and I
thing,
can talk about how we get that started on our side. So
cool. And if you need our comms support at all, we can help figure that out. The other thing I realize I'm supposed to mention that Maddie will come get me if I don't mention this is I know one thing that we all talked about as a group as hopefully the next step in this is having some kind of webinar or equivalent forum where we would explore the topics covered by this resource. So that is our next kind of to do on this, and so we would obviously want to have folks from this group be really involved, and then there's some of the at the recommendation of this group and based on some of the relationships we already had, we reached out to a number of other organizations, like for example, National League of Cities, National Governors Association, and so think that entities like those that have membership comprised of the kinds of leaders we'd want using this resource could be places to reach out to do some kind of webinar or equivalent thing with in probably January or February. So that will be the next set of things we work on, and we'll update folks as we figure that out.
That's great. That was actually my question is there a next step in terms of getting the information off to people in terms of a more substantive review of this content and the chance to exchange ideas around that. So I think that would be a really great next step. And I think we'd be really happy to work with you on that for sure. So I'm going to look through the chat here. Albert saying a PDF and a sentence blurb that explains and entices people to click it. And he's pointing us to the resources page for some guidance around what you might want to, how you might want to structure that blurb. So. Great, thanks so much. And I have read through this resource and I think it's really, really helpful. And I love that you pointed this out, but I love that each section actually has something you can click to that gives you a really relevant example of what you're talking about and where somebody may have applied it, or a document or something that will help you really think through the point that you're mentioning on that. So really,
Yeah, that took longer than writing it was tracking down all the examples.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, that's really the bulk of the research, right? It's like trying to find all the things to support your conclusions. So, have you had a chance to vet it anywhere at all yet? Like get feedback beyond our group at all?
We did share the draft with some of those orgs, like I was saying. So National Government Association, National League of Cities, National Association of State and Chief Information Officers, National Association of States Attorneys Generals. And there was a few other, but those are the main ones that actually provided substantive written feedback. So it was especially helpful to know that, like, to pressure test it there, since those are, except for NASIO, those are orgs that do not specialize in AI. And so to hear from them, like, what was useful and what needed different kind of explanation, I think was a good way to make sure that this will be communicable to folks that are more generalists than perhaps this group.
Okay. And so, like, as a resource, is this something you would recommend people sort of reviewing themselves, but also maybe forwarding to their agency leadership, or?
Yeah, that would be great. And any feedback you get, good or bad, we'd love to know, because we want to make sure that this is actually useful. So especially as we think about what a webinar might look like, as, if folks share it with your agency leadership or government-wide leadership, if there are particular questions or things that people like or didn't like, that can help, will directly shape what we actually put into the webinar.
Great. Okay, any follow-up questions for Quinn outside of what we've already talked about? Not seeing any. We're at the very tail end of our meeting today, and so I don't think we're going to have time to dive into anything else in the remaining time that we have. But I wanted to thank everybody that came and spoke today, Alice for her discussion about training, and also to our different project groups that have been turning around this really impressive content. And I think 2025 was the year of hunkering down and really sort of thinking and building and developing. And now we're getting to the point where we're getting some really key outputs that I think are going to be so helpful to not only the people in this committee, but coalition wide. So I just want to thank everybody for, this is work that you guys are doing on top of your other job, and you're really contributing. And it's really exciting to see things that have been talked about at the beginning of the year now being fully formed and ready to almost be delivered, and getting to this stage. It's just so impressive. So just wanted to thank everybody for their hard work, and not just the people building, but the people giving feedback and fine tuning. And it takes all levels of engagement with these pieces. So in 2026, feel free to jump in any capacity you have, if you want to join any of these project groups and dig deep into work like Marty and Quinn and Maddie have been doing, or if you just want to be a reviewer, or somebody that can help facilitate things. So there's multiple roles that you can do in any of these things. So it's just really fantastic to see. So.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Albert. Yeah, so I don't have anything else. We are planning to meet next on the 17th. And so, we'll be coming back at the last. I hope you can join us in your holiday schedules. And if you're on holiday, and join us in just January, that's great too. But we're looking forward to seeing people on the 17th if you're going to be here. So more to come. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great couple of weeks.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
Thank you.
you.